Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Southeast Termite and Pest Control. Beware of the fall invaders, my friends. Ladybugs, stink bugs, box elder bugs. They all want to turn your home into an Airbnb for the winter. Don't allow it. Every year I have Southeast Termite and Pest Control come by my home, use the fall invader treatment on my house, and every single year it works. And believe me, before I used their treatment, I used to have the issue. Ladybugs, stink bugs. Never had the box elder bugs. Some people have one, the other. Some people get all three. Southeast Termite and Pest Control can make sure you don't get any. SoutheastTermite.com to learn more. All right, I want to welcome in the last two members of the panel. Right over there, VFL Daniel Hood. Right over there, Chuck Cavaleras. All right, gentlemen. I was wrong. Sterling wasn't in this segment. And trust me, it's not because the guys had to drag him out of here. He was so ticked off and mad. That's not the case at all. All right. Marlon, I'll start with you. Fun question. This is the glass half full, glass half empty.
Yep.
Is this a gritty 5-1 team that finds a way to win? Or is this a flawed 5-1 team that's headed for trouble?
I think a lot of that we're going to find out this week, but I would say it's a gritty 5-1 team that's finding a way to win, simply because defense travels. If this defense can continue to get better and progress throughout the season, I don't think from an offensive standpoint you have to score that magic number that we know, that 30 points. Yeah, I don't think we have to get to that. So I'm going to say it's a gritty 5-1 team, but I think you're going to find a whole lot out this week.
Defense travels, says the former defender. What about the other former defender down here in Daniel Hood?
See, I was so torn on the question because I was at the Florida game, and that did not look like a gritty Tennessee team that came in that ran the ball well, and they got affected by the crowd and ended up having a chance at the end of the game, made plays, and so it looked very flawed. But I do think at home this is a gritty Tennessee team. On the road, I think they're flawed, looking for some problems.
That's Cavalersing the question, but it's got a good reason behind it. I'll allow that Cavalersing. Chuck, I won't allow you to do it no matter what, though.
We've seen the obvious flaws. We've talked about them. The passing game, you go on the road. How many more penalties are you going to have on the road than at home? What was it I wrote down yesterday? 12 penalties for 115 yards.
More penalty yards than passing.
You go on the road like that and you can't convert the third down. And the crowd noise, Daniel pointed out, affects you. Unless they can get some things going, I think they're headed for at least a significant wake-up call.
We've got a gritty at home, flawed on the road, and we've got a flawed. Will, what do you say?
I'm going to be on brand here, and I'm going to say they're flawed.
Here comes the ring cloud.
and I wouldn't say that in pass. I mean, if this was the 90s and where you're rushing the ball and defense won you more games, but this has turned into a score more points kind of league and score more points level. And I'm concerned you're not going to be able to score enough points with more of these teams that you're about to face, especially on the road. But I think that's where I come into this as more flawed, is this league has gotten into where you need to score 28, 30 points. I'm nervous we're not going to be able to do that against some of these defenses we're about to face.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Well, the only thing I was going to add on top of that is it seems like, too, here lately, Dylan Sampson, who's got 30% of your team's touchdowns, isn't getting those plays in space that he needs. And, like, scoring.
He got touches yesterday, but as Bob pointed out, a lot of them were between the tackles runs, which
I
isn't
think he
his.
got 9 runs, and he caught one
catch.
pass. But it's like that guy needs the ball in his hands more than 10 times. He's scoring 30% of your touchdowns over the season.
Yeah, and I wouldn't take carries away from Jalen Wright. Get him the ball in space, throwing it to him. Because if you take the ball away from Keaton and White and Nimrod,
what are you losing there?
Well, they've already said that they go with the hot hand from the running back room.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part.
Yeah,
of it.
and to me, one of the
Small
flaws,
does a good job too. We haven't mentioned it.
Yeah.
One of the flaws is Joe Milton with the ball in his hand on third down or fourth down, and he has to make the play. He has to make the read. And he has to make the right decision, and we're not seeing that.
That's true, but he has to have somebody open too.
I agree,
or catch it.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm defensive of him only because I think it's a 50-50 split on the problem. And I know everybody initially targets the quarterback because they're out there by themselves. You're seeing the camera never leaves the quarterback. You're not seeing the receivers running downfield with a guy glued to them. So I will defend him only in that, but I'm not defending the fact he is slow to process. I don't trust him making decisions. I thought it was pretty clear at one point yesterday. Gary Danielson said the play caller is spooked by that interception. That he threw down.
I mean,
absolutely.
And almost running out of bounds again.
One thing, we got to catch a break, but one thing I will say, if this is a flawed 5-1 Tennessee team, I'd rather be 5-1 and flawed than 1-5 and flawed. But here's the thing: you look around the SEC. I see a lot of flawed teams.
frauds.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the odds of you running the table against that group, not great. But you can have a pretty successful season because I don't see anybody that's without flaw. Alabama is a flawed football team that you're going to play down there. Georgia, still the class of the league. They got more flaws than they've ever had, and who knows what this injury situation is with Brock Bowers. So while this is, I agree with you guys who said it's flawed. I think it's a flawed 5-1. But there are a lot of other teams who, right now, if they had Sunday shows like this, they'd be saying the same
They
thing,
can be flawed and win 9 or 10 games this year,
Yeah.
which would be a hell of a
which
year.
is great. We'll take it.
All right, when we come back, the Vols control their own destiny in the SEC East. See there? Josh is going to break down the East race very quickly. Chuck has an edge that Tennessee has over Alabama that you need to hear. Come on back on the Sports Source.